Great, and we are now live. So welcome to TAD Summit Revisited, and we're going to be doing part one of two-part session. This is going to be reviewing the dangerous demos. So at TAD Summit, we had an amazing whole session devoted to back-to-back demos, just showing the power of running both open source and a whole range of other telco platforms in the cloud. So James was the compere for the whole event and did a great job there. So I've got some questions, and I'm just going to quickly run through those questions. And if we get anything live or if anybody emails me, I'll ask those as well. So Paul, I'm going to kick off with you. And the first question we received was, where is Clearwater deployed? Clearwater, of course, being Metaswitch's open source IMS platform. So over to you, Paul.
Okay, thanks very much. Very good question. So we have about a half a dozen live production deployments of Clearwater as of now. Some of them are still not publicly announced, but the ones I can talk about, go through. We have a deployment with Manx Telecom in the UK, and in fact I did a pitch at TAD Summit talking about that. Manx Telecom have replaced their existing fixed line deployment, which was IMS based from a different vendor, and deployed Metaswitch solutions. So Clearwater is the IMS core, and it is using some of the other Metaswitch platforms, our TAS for residential services, our SBC perimeter, and they have now cut their entire network across and retired their old platform. That was a very successful project, wrapped up just before Christmas last year. We have a deployment with Tiscali, who is, they're based in Italy, but they have a global messaging social media platform called Induna. You can find Induna on the web. It's actually quite a neat app, along the lines of Skype or WhatsApp or something like that for voice messaging and video, and that is based on Clearwater as the IMS core. They have some low numbers of millions, something between 5 and 10 million subscribers registered on that platform who've downloaded, got the application. And they're using some other open source platforms. They have an application server built around Kamailio. They've developed their own client, and they're using Perimeter, which is Metaswitch's SBC platform as well. And then we have another deployment. So it's not public yet, but this is in Malaysia. This is using Clearwater as an IMS core for an RCS deployment. We have Clearwater deployed in the UK with an inter-exchange carrier. They're using it as a front end to their video conferencing platform. We have a deployment just kicking off, which is actually a secure communications network in actually UK government. It's called Secure Chorus, and in fact I have a brief pitch I'm going to do at Mobile World Congress, just pitching on this. And that's interconnecting secure communications between government deployments. And then in terms of test networks, we are deployed in test labs at 8 of the 20 biggest MNOs globally, and we have about 8 demos of people using Clearwater at MWC, ranging telephonically using it from OpenMano. We just seem to find everybody who wants to demonstrate anything NFV oriented, they go, please can we use Clearwater? So we're in everything and everything, which is a great place to be.
Excellent. Now I guess the related question to that is, what's your largest deployment to date?
So the largest production deployment would be Tiscali, where, as I said, there's something between 5 and 10 million subscribers on the system. The actual traffic is not as high as that. Social media platforms, you tend to find people sign up for it, and then some people are very active users and some less. But it's still a relatively high call load going through it.
Gotcha. Cool. Now, this was a number of questions. I've sort of compressed them into one, which is, what more is required beyond Clearwater for a production IMS deployment? I mean, there were several related questions, but I sort of combined it into one.
Combined it into one. So Project Clearwater is open source. You can freely go and download it from projectclearwater.org, get it up and running. Plenty of people have done that. In terms of a production network, Clearwater does not have, it does have an SBC component called Bono, but it is not a production quality SBC. It does not provide adequate levels of overload protection, denial of service. So we sell alongside Clearwater our Perimeter SBC platform, and we also package that with our service assurance server, which is our diagnostic tool. It gives you always-on diagnostics. It will give you calls, every call that's been through the system for the last week, etc. So that's the core components we package together to make an IMS core. And then we will often package solutions with an application server on top. So application server for VoLTE or residential services or RCS, depending on what application customers are looking for.
Gotcha. That's clear. Excellent. And then the last one was, where do you see Clearwater going? Is it just going to be cheap IMS, a default IMS, a demo IMS? It's interesting to see your vision of Clearwater.
Where it's going. It's definitely turning into a demo IMS that everybody uses anyway. I'd like to see it as the default IMS that people deploy. I think it is. There are a lot of activity in the VoLTE space. I think it is very suitable for deploying in VoLTE networks, production networks. It's very capable of scaling to tens or hundreds of millions of subscribers. And I think with the NFV capabilities, cloud-based, it can change the dynamics and the economics of rolling out a VoLTE deployment for carriers, whatever size they are, and rather than going with a traditional hardware-based platform. So that's what we're pushing and where we're trying to go. It's absolutely a platform that Metaswitch is supporting as a production platform with our support SLA behind it, putting our sales and marketing's effort into actually getting it deployed in the networks.
Excellent. That was great, Paul. Thanks for that. So we'll move on to you, Michael.
Comment on the end of that.
Go for it, James.
Yeah. What we're seeing here with Clearwater is an example of how procurement is evolving and changing a little bit. If you go back about 3, 4, 5 years ago, the way of procuring things like IMS infrastructure would be to produce this massive RFI, RFQ type procedure and throw that out to industry and let them come back. But the complexity and the cost of something like IMS with the VoLTE overlay is so great, and to be perfectly honest, it's so different to the infrastructures that have come before. People can't really afford to do that. So what we're seeing is more of what Paul's just been describing, which is operators getting something like Clearwater and playing with it in order to find out what it is that they want to buy, how it works, and thereby drive their procurement. So it's part of the evolution.
And it is a definite evolution, because you get a carrier and one group of the carriers doing that, and you have another group which is going down the RFP, RFQ process, and they're going to take 18 months to do not very much. And there's a big contention and evolution happening within carriers to make that happen. And it's all part of carriers moving towards a more open architecture, virtualized NFV-based stuff. But there's a lot of changing the way carriers have to operate to be successful in the modern world, in the current world that's going on today.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
So moving on to auto-scaling, which is hard. And that was an impressive demo you did, Michael. So what was the hardest part of creating your auto-scaling demo?
Well, actually, the hardest part is the area that we cheated on. During the demo, as I mentioned, we wrote our own monitoring platform to simply focus on the scaling needs of the application. What we didn't do is hook in any commercial monitoring and log management features. When we started going down that road, given the time frame we had, we realized that was actually probably the biggest item. You know, you live and die by the trace. And we almost found out about that firsthand, because just about 2 hours before the demo, we had a problem, and we're all looking at each other going, "Where's the problem?" And since we had no logging collection, a lot of phone calls and emails went out to a lot of people who were also in this conference, going, "Is it you? Is it us? Where's the problem? Help!" Fortunately, it all came together. but it's actually something we're going back and correcting right now. We're putting back in to the overall demo and to the proof of concept very robust logging and management features, because we realized it's probably the most complex piece. There's so many moving parts to it. Anything goes wrong, finding it is the hard part, as everyone on the call knows, and everyone listening who's ever done these systems knows. So when something breaks at 2 in the morning, you really should be able to look at a log and go, aha, here it is, not start your trace then.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And then Arthur's not here, so you can be honest with us. So what do you dislike with Juju?
Well, Juju it's trying to be a lot of things, and like any system that tries to do everything, there's going to have weak points to it. But Juju is still evolving, so they just had a new release of it. There's a new feature in it that's called layers. So the thing that previously was one of the things I disliked the most about it was the linking of charms.
Yeah.
So charms, calling charms, passing data, getting all that set up, and so there was a lot of work they had to do behind the scenes, and it was, is this really necessary? Isn't there a better way? Sometimes bringing new frameworks just to do that. So that was the one thing that really we pointed out to them, we talked to Canonical about, and like I said, they listened. So they just introduced a new function called layers, which we haven't really played with yet, but it's supposed to address that very issue. So that was the biggest thing we were kind of not thrilled with, but what I like is it's evolving.
Exactly, and that, I think, is a very important point of the Dangerous demo. It's kicked off by James, and it's become a theme throughout both TADHack and TAD Summit. Is just bringing together all these different technologies, all these different partners, and integrating them together on the Juju platform, and as a result, helping it evolve quite rapidly. I mean, let's face it. Layers appeared very quickly, so I think that's a great example of taking this very open, collaborative approach. So I'll move on to you, Sebastian. Again, great demo, excellent, well done in doing it in such short notice. Very interested to understand, again, similar questions that we had emailed through to Michael is, what was the hardest part in creating that demo?
Okay, so there was 2 parts in this demo. First, offline charging with Clearwater. So we did provisioning, and it was quite easy to implement. We just called a REST API from OpenCell, and this is quite easy to do. We had a small technical problem to get the CDR from Clearwater to OpenCell, because both our system produce or consume files, but on their own side. Yeah. So at some point you have to transfer it. And then what we did is it's a small enhancement to the billing, so it can go and fetch the FTP the files. So this went well. The most difficult part was on the other side, was on the real-time charging, because we had real-time charging, but using a REST API, and we had to implement the diameter interface. So we embedded Telestack's diameter stack inside the product, and that was a tricky part. It was not really in implementing the interface themselves. No. That was quite easy to do. But it was really the technical part of getting this diameter stack bundled with OpenCell. But after that, it went well, and I remember we finished debugging the interface connection just the day before the demo. It was fun. And well, we had a great support of the Telestack team, and it was great.
Excellent. Now, this question came from quite a few telcos in the problems they've been having with IMS integration with their billing charging platforms. So they were, because it successfully worked, there was several related questions around what have been your experiences with IMS integration. I mean, beyond the demo, they were more general. How do you solve these integration issues with IMS for billing and charging?
Well, I must say that it's the first time we implemented diameter. This is we don't have really experience with that. Most of the deployment we have in telco is using offline charging. So we typically did what we did with Clearwater, processing CDRs, and sometimes it's big deployment. So we have a customer where we process like 1.2 billion CDR per month. That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not real time, so it's not so it's IMS interface.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was not. So hopefully now that's okay.
Yeah, because that was one of the things that got a lot of people's attention, because it is difficult, and you were just showing it with open source and just showing it working. So I think it was one of those that lots of people were questioning, how did you do it?
Oh yeah, but the difficult part was this diameter stack, and it was been done by Telestack since many years, and we rely on JBoss and all these things that allow us to. For instance, we use a cache like Infinispan that allow us to do a high availability.
Yeah.
And this is a really difficult software, but we rely on this. We didn't do it ourselves.
Gotcha. As always, standing on the shoulders of giants helps you achieve something like that. So that's excellent, Sebastian. So moving on to James. What's the status?
Pick up on Sebastian's point there about the power inherent in the diameter. Traditionally, historically, lots of operators have run their own proprietary billing stacks, and so there's been a lot of differences in across the industry, and quite often billing is one of those black arts where you've got your gnomes down in the cellars who never let out, who just do their billing, and nobody really understands what's going on, and certainly you never try and do anything too clever like inter-carrier billing unless you're running it through the
exchange,
the standard methods. But but diameter opens up all kinds of interesting possibilities for us, and we're looking forward to doing some really exciting things with some of the functionality inherent in diameter looking forwards. So, sorry.
No. That was an excellent point, and I think sort of complements what Sebastian was saying. But let's move on to you. I've had many people asking me this. So it's you've been banging the drum on the TruePhone API. People want to know, what's the status?
Well, it's coming. It's coming, just like Christmas is. These pieces of functionality are being dropped in there piece by piece. Mm-hmm. But you know what? We've set ourselves a bit of a hard target to get to, and the question is, at what stage do we actually let it loose in the open with the developer sim? So if you weren't aware, that the plan is that we're probably going to release developer packs of typically 5 sims at a time with the API keys, so that certain trusted, friendly people can have a early exposure to the API and build some demo applications, which we then use to launch the complete API. So we've got to get to a stage where there's enough richness in the API that people can do some really sexy stuff. And at the moment, we can do all the basic stuff, provisioning of numbers and all that kind of stuff. We've been able to do that for some time. But we want to build in some of the really sexy stuff so that when we press the go button, it'll just blow people's socks off.
I know it, because I had Karel from TADHack Paris asking me, what's the status? I really want to get my service launched.
Yeah, he definitely wants it. He's keener than a keen thing, yeah.
So let's wrap up, because we're coming up to the 20 minutes now, and this is to all. What's next for the Dangerous demo? I'll start with you, James, and then I'll just pop through everybody else, okay?
Okay, well, clearly we want to get the API running and real SIM cards, but going in parallel with that, I would very much like to see some real radio access network coming into play, particularly in the small cells area. If you weren't aware, I think everybody's aware because I keep on talking about it, I'm the global champion for multi-operator neutral host small cells, courtesy of the Small Cell Forum. And we're banging that drum very, very hard. We think that over the next 3 to 5 years, something like 60% of the small cells that are procured and deployed across the planet will be procured and deployed by people who are not mobile network operators.
Exactly.
So there are a load of opportunities for people who build platforms, the bits and pieces that we have here, to sell into new markets. And possibly, dare I say this, a little bit easier to get into and sell into than the big MNOs.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think that's an excellent, I think that direction for the Dangerous demo will be very powerful. And it is, it's about showing the capabilities and expanding the audience beyond what we consider to be traditionally telco. So that's a great point, James. So Michael, where next for your piece of the Dangerous demo?
We're going to Mobile World Congress with it. We're with Canonical in their space, but we're going back, and as mentioned, we're fixing the lack of logging and management for it, and we're also adding billing. So when working with OpenCell and bringing that in, so it becomes really a whole comprehensive, workable system now.
Yeah, and that's the key. All running on open source. So it's a flexible, open platform that can solve some of the hard problems. James talked about gnomes. What they didn't mention is they are very expensive gnomes and tend to be employed by other, sort of expensive companies. So being able to move it into an open source framework enables you to just massively lower the cost and solve some of those problems. Moving on to you, Paul. You mentioned you're throughout Mobile World Congress. So, any more details?
More details. What are we doing? Okay. We seem to be everywhere and anywhere at Mobile World Congress. So, probably the most interesting highlights to pick. We are in the HP OPNFV partner booth, and we are actually demonstrating a virtualized VoLTE solution. Going back to James's point, we have got a test ran, and we're going to have some handsets. So we're showing VoLTE running live, and this is going to be orchestrated, so you can scale up and scale down. We also have a demo with them using the HP Orchestrator platform. We have a demo on the Tata platform. They have an orchestrator, Concerto, so they're demonstrating VoLTE solution with Clearwater and Perimeter, and Brocade as the EPC. We have a demo with VMware on the VMware stand, and that's using the Cloudify orchestrator. We have a demo on the Intel stand. They're doing video calling with Perimeter and Clearwater. We have an onboarding demo with IBM on the IBM stand. They're showing Clearwater. We are involved in a demo with Telefonica and their Open Mano project, and also with Canonical on their stand, cool. Essentially showing off what we did at TAD Hack, TAD Summit. So there's a lot going on, and as I said, everybody they want to show off orchestration, and Clearwater seems to be a key part of lots of our partners' story this MWC.
That's excellent, excellent to hear. So wrapping up, Sebastian, where next for the Dangerous demo for you?
Excuse me?
Where next for the Dangerous demo? Where do you see?
Okay, so we'll be also in the Mobile World Congress, and we will get the 4.2 version of the OpenCell platform, and we will introduce new modules behind billings. We have an order management system and a catalog manager system that will expose TM Forum API, so it's good for telco. And also our software will be much more modular. We'll bring a marketplace, a way for people to build their modules.
Yep.
And for the next demo, we also plan to have more and more diameter. So, for instance, using Arrow interface with Clearwater.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. So is there anything else anybody wants to add before we wrap up this TAD Summit Revisited session? We are all good? Excellent, guys. Well, again, thank you so much for an excellent demo in November in Lisbon, and looking forward to seeing something even more amazing at the next TAD Summit. Thanks again, guys.